Welcome back to the Therapy Diaries podcast. Glad you're here. Today I'll be discussing why it's so difficult for me personally to not act out my compulsions. When I was in therapy for my OCD issues, my therapist went through exposure response prevention therapy. And part of this therapy was about helping me to not act out my compulsions. And when I stopped acting out my compulsions, I was left with my anxiety. And the reason why is because compulsions are meant to neutralize a person's anxiety. They're meant to push away the anxiety, run away from it, neutralize it. And when this happens, after someone engages in a compulsion, the person with OCD feels temporary relief from their anxiety. And that's why they continue to act out their compulsion. They want to feel that temporary relief. I want to feel that temporary relief from my anxiety. I needed that. It felt like something I needed all of the time, and it became addictive. And the only way that I thought I could get this temporary relief from my anxiety was to act out my compulsion. And that's why acting out my compulsion almost felt like an addiction for me personally. Recently, I did a continuous education class. Well, I did a couple of them on exposure response prevention therapy. And I will link the training that I took in the description below. But in this training, the psychologist, I can't remember his last name, so I apologize, but his first name is Patrick, and he spoke about how OCD, metaphorically, not literally, is like the cookie monster. You know, the cookie monster can't get enough cookies, and it only eats cookies. It doesn't eat vegetables or fruits. And the OCD is like the cookie monster in the way that it only eats compulsions for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's all it wants. It just wants compulsions. And so this part wasn't in the training. This is just me. But I liken this to the story in the Odyssey about the sirens. In the Odyssey, there are these women who were half bird, half woman, and they lived on this island. And whenever a sailor would get close to their island, they would let out their call, and the sailor would go into this hypnotic state almost, where they didn't really have control over their bodies, and they ended up landing their ship on this island and were never seen from again. It's unclear what these sirens did to these sailors, but I mean, you can imagine there are theories. In this metaphor, the OCD is the siren. I'm the sailor. And when the OCD lets out its call, I go into this hypnotic state where it's very difficult for me not to land my ship onto OCD's island. It's difficult for me not to slip into this hypnotic state, to not act out my compulsion. And that's because I need that temporary relief. I need it now. I need it yesterday. I need it tomorrow. I need the temporary relief from my anxiety. And I didn't know how to cope with my anxiety before exposure response prevention therapy. And I learned a lot about how to cope with it from this therapy. But before I started this therapy, I thought the only way to cope with my anxiety, to not feel it, was to act out my compulsions. And so the OCD let out its call, the siren call. The obsessive intrusive thought came. It brought me so much anxiety, and I needed relief, even if it was only temporary. I don't care, any sort of relief. So I did the only thing I knew how to bring that temporary relief, which is to act out my compulsions. But as we know, that's only temporary until the OCD let out its siren call again. I had an obsessive thought that brought me anxiety, and the OCD cycle continues. Until I went to exposure response prevention therapy, and my therapist helped me not to respond to my anxiety by acting out a compulsions, but instead respond to my anxiety by doing nothing. Crazy, I know. It's like, I didn't even think that was an option. Like, I have anxiety and I do nothing about it. What the hell, actually? But that's what she taught me. And you would think that doing nothing would be easy, but it's not. It taught me that I can handle difficult feelings. I can handle anxiety. When I do feel anxiety, instead of pushing it away now or act out my compulsions, I just allow myself feel the anxiety. I allow it to come, and I don't grab onto it, and I allow it to go on its own. I don't hold on to it. I don't push it away. I don't feed the pigeons. I talked about this in my last episode. I talked about feeding the pigeons. But anyway, so it really did teach me a lot about my capabilities, because I didn't think I was capable of it. I didn't think I was capable of handling anxiety. And that led to so many different opportunities. Like, I expanded my comfort zone. After COVID, I started to feel a lot of social anxiety. Before COVID, I felt some social anxiety, but not really. It was almost like after COVID, I had to relearn how to socialize with other human beings, and that triggered a lot of social anxiety for me. But instead of running away from it or just going into my corner and not socializing with people, like that's how I would have responded to my anxiety before going to exposure response prevention therapy. Instead of doing that, I decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to feel anxiety. After every single event, I'm going to have a panic attack. That's the pattern I've noticed, and I can handle it. It's going to be fine. I'm not going to die. It's going to be okay, but this connection that I'm going to make with another human being, it's worth it. And I'm capable of handling that anxiety. It's even helped me with things like job interviews, handling my anxiety during a job interview. Instead of being distracted and trying to cope with my anxiety or trying to do something with it to get it to go away, I just sit with it and I just allow myself to feel anxiety, and I know that I'm going to be okay. I know that's easier said than done. Like I said, it sounds so easy to do nothing to your anxiety, but it's not easy. Exposure response prevention therapy is not easy. And if it's something that you struggle with as a person, I want you to know that you're not alone. I mean, I've been there. I mean, it's rough. It's rough out there. There's a reason why people struggle with that type of therapy. It's because it takes a lot of work to do nothing. It takes a lot of work to just sit there and allow your anxiety to come and go on its own. So don't beat yourself up. And also, if you're giving ERP or exposure response prevention therapy, if you're giving it your all and it's not working for you, I want to remind you, it's effective for about 70% of people. But that means that it's not effective for about 30% of people. That means that 30% of people, after they have given ERP their all, it didn't work for them. And I don't want you to feel shame or to feel like you're the problem. There are other treatments that are available to you. There are other ways to handle OCD. I think that this is my recommendation, just Celine, my personal recommendation. I think it's important to try ERP and to give it your all first before going to anything else, because it is so effective and it is so important to learn that you have the capability to handle your anxiety. That's not just important for managing OCD symptoms, that's important for so many other things in life. There's a whole world out there that is beautiful and amazing and difficult that I want you to experience. I want you to experience life in its full colors and breadth. But that means that you're going to have to deal with the pain too, and the anxiety and the hard parts about it. And learning that you can handle that you're capable of handling the pain and the anxiety, means that the whole world opens up to you, so that anxiety doesn't dictate your actions anymore. Anxiety doesn't limit what you can and can't do anymore. No, I don't want you to think, I can't do this, or I don't want to do this because if I do, I'll feel anxiety. I want you to think, I'm going to do this, and I might fail, I might succeed, I don't know, it's uncertain, and I'm going to have anxiety, and I might even feel pain, but I can handle that. I can handle those feelings. I am capable. And that is what exposure response prevention therapy has done for me, and I want that for you. So please try it. But if you give it your all and it doesn't work for you, don't beat yourself up. There are other options. And you're wonderful and you're a beautiful human, and it's okay. It's okay to be human. But that's it for now. Thank you for listening, and I will see you later. Bye now.